my name is Soleil and welcome back to the Little Reader's Corner. Today we are talking about spring reads. So I have two parts in this video. Basically the first part is all of the recent spring books that I have read that I highly recommend, and the second part are all of the books that I really want to read that give spring vibes, books that I've heard really positive reviews about, recommendations for. So without further ado, let's dive into it. So starting off, I have 4 recommendations for books that I have recently read that give me major spring vibes, that just feel like the season of spring. I can't explain why for some of them totally make sense. The first one is The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. So this book is all about a female bodyguard, a protection agent. She recently has been going through a lot of personal and emotional upheaval in her life. All she wants is to be sent off on a new assignment that's far away from her hometown. That is a complete change of scenery, but that is not exactly what happens. She gets assigned to be the bodyguard for a really high-profile actor who is in her hometown or home state of Texas. She is really annoyed that she doesn't get to go escape abroad, but she takes on the assignment, hoping that it will lead to a future promotion. This is a contemporary romance. It starts off as a fake dating trope, as the really prominent actor doesn't want his family to worry about him knowing that he has a bodyguard protecting him. So they start pretending to be dating so that his family isn't thrown off by him having a bodyguard. It's super cute. I read this within like 2 days. It's very fast paced, it's not that long, and it is just so cute. Next, I have Aquacorn Cove, which is by Kay O'Neill. Kay O'Neill also wrote the Tea Dragon Society books, which I think there are either 3 or 4 of now. Tea Dragon Society, Tea Dragon Festival, Tea Dragon Tapestry, I think. Kay O'Neill is an amazing graphic novelist and illustrator. I love them so much. So basically, Aquacorn Cove is about a young girl who has recently lost her mother, and she goes back to her hometown with her father, and they help clean up after a recent storm. During her time that she's back there, she reconnects with the wildlife, with nature, and with the life that is brimming with under the ocean. She reconnects with her aunt. It's a really short but really sweet story, and there's also a lovely storyline about oceanography. There's kind of a queer romance going on in there, and it's just really sweet. Next, I have The Sprite and the Gardener by Rhea Abrego. So this is also kind of a nature-y, feel-good story about little Sprite who has recently transferred into a new neighborhood. The Sprites used to work in harmony with humans and take care of gardens, but since then the humans have been taking care of their own gardens and the Sprites aren't needed anymore, so they don't use their powers for creating beautiful gardens anymore. They just kind of hang out. But this little Sprite finds a person in desperate need of help with their garden, and she decides to help out. And throughout this, she revives the sprightly nature of taking care of gardens and reconnecting with the humans. And it's super short, but super sweet. And it's absolutely adorable and gives all of the spring vibes. Next, I have Pillow of the Woods, which is written by May K. Wen. This is a story about Willow, who has been going through a lot of changes with their family and has recently had an argument with her sister. Willow goes out into the forest and runs into a kind of forest nymph creature. This forest nymph is named Pilu, and they become fast friends. They both connect over their difficulties of letting kind of their inner demons take control of their emotions and their thoughts, and they find ways to reconnect with their family members and find ways to accept both the many times that they need to release those emotions and need to cry, and also just be more loving of themselves. Very foresty, very spring, very adorable. So those are all of the books that I have personally read and personally recommend for spring that give me all of the spring vibes. Now let's talk about the books that I have not read, so I can't personally vouch for them, but I'm personally interested in reading them. I've heard good reviews, I've heard recommendations for these books, and I'm looking forward to checking them out, hopefully this spring, and if not in the spring, then in the summer. So you might be interested in these as well. First off, I have been hearing rave reviews for the Encyclopedia of Fairies. This is by Heather Faylett. I got this as an ARC last year, was intrigued, but recently everyone has been reading this and I have become even more intrigued. This is definitely more a slow-paced book, so if you're looking for some action, some, I don't know, warfare and adventure, this might not be your cup of tea. So this is about a professor who journeys to a small town in the far north to study the fairy folklore, where she discovers dark fae magic, friendship, and love in this heartwarming and enchanting fantasy. So many people have been reading this. I'm looking forward to reading it soon as well. I know last year a lot of people were reading and recommending A Far Wilder Magic. This is by Allison Saft. So this one was giving all of the cottagecore spring vibes last year, so I am hoping to get to it this year. When Margaret Welty spots the legendary Hala, the last living mythical creature, she knows the half-moon hunt will soon follow. Whoever is able to kill the Hala will earn fame and riches and unlock an ancient magical secret. While Margaret is the best sharpshooter in town, only teams of 2 can register, and she needs an alchemist. Weston Winters isn't an alchemist yet. He's been fired from every apprenticeship he's landed, and his last chance hinges on Master Welty taking him in. But when he arrives at Welty Manor, he finds only Margaret. She begrudgingly allows him to stay on one condition: he must join the hunt with her. Although they make an unlikely team, they soon find themselves drawn to each other. As the hunt looms closer and tensions rise, Margaret and Wes uncover dark magic that could be the key to winning the hunt if they survive that long. It's an achingly tender love story set against a deadly hunt with an atmosphere-rich fantasy that will sweep you away. Sounds lovely, sounds like spring to me. I hope I can read it soon. Next, we have a very recent release, which is Foxglove King. This is by Hannah Witten, and this is the Fairy Loot edition, which is just so gorgeous, and it has beautiful end pages, an alternate cover, ooh, and gorgeous underside. So far, I think the only person that I know who has read this is my friend Jess. They recently read this and they loved it, so I love almost every single book that Jess has read and recommended to me, so I feel like I'm going to love this one. Also, it's just so gosh darn beautiful. When Laura was 13, she escaped a cult in the catacombs beneath the city of Delaire. And in the 10 years since, she's lived by one rule: don't let them find you. Easier said than done when her magic ties her to the city. Mortem is a magic born from death and is high-priced and illicit commodity in Delaire. Laura has made a living running potions for the city's underbelly, and when a run goes wrong, she's captured by the king and expects to be sent to the pyre, but the king has different plans. Laura is thrust into the sainted king's glittering court, where no one can be believed and even fewer can be trusted. Guarded by Gabriel, a duke turned monk, and continually running up against Bastion, the king's ne'er-do-well heir, Laura tangles in politics, religion, and forbidden romance as she attempts to navigate a debauched and opulent society. But the life she left behind in the catacombs is catching up with her. And even as Laura makes her way through the sainted court above, danger from below draws even closer. If only I had time to read gorgeous fantasies right now. I can't wait to hopefully get to this soon, but in case one of y'all is interested, maybe you'll be able to read it before me. Next, I'm continuing with the spring vibes with Belladonna by Adeline Grace. So I actually started Adeline Grace's first book because I went to her signing. This was like years ago at this point. It was like 2019 maybe. Anyways, I didn't actually end up finishing that one, but this one sounds like it actually might be more my vibe. So this is about a girl who confronts death and her own deathly powers in a gothic-infused romantic young adult fantasy. 19-year-old Signa Farrow, orphaned as baby, has been raised by a string of guardians, each more interested in her wealth than her well-being. and each has met an untimely death. Her last remaining relatives are the Hawthorns, an eccentric family living in Thorn Grove, an estate both glittering and gloomy. Thorn Grove's patriarch Elijah mourns his late wife Lillian through wild parties and drink, while eldest son Percy grapples for control of the family's waning reputation, and daughter Blythe suffers from the same mysterious illness that killed her mother. So that is nearly a run-on sentence, but that's fine. When Lillian's spirit confronts Signa and claims she has been poisoned, Signa realizes that Blythe could be next to die. So a little bit more of a mystery tossed in with a spring vibesy book. I feel like this could fall into autumn or spring, but it's giving me spring right now. Next, I have Sugaring Off. This is by Gillian French. Truly, I have not heard a single peep about anyone who's read this book. If you have, please let me know. It's just because of the cover. I mean, look at that cover. It's giving spring. So this is about love and loss with a dash of thrilling mystery. Left partially deaf by an early childhood tragedy that ended in her father's incarceration, 17-year-old Owl is now a tracker, explorer, and wildlife enthusiast. Always her freest self when hiking the steep forest acres surrounding her aunt and uncle's maple sugar farm, now her home. Owl and her aunt and uncle never speak of the brutal attack that brought her to them. Owl's sheltered existence is blown wide open by Cody, a magnetic, dangerous young man hired to help with the sugaring off. Cody seems to see her, the real her, in a way that no one else does. Together they challenge each other, learn to question their preconceptions, and risk a romance their families are desperate to stop. So truly, the vibes of spring are just from the cover. It's feeling a little bit more like a fall, but honestly, let's bring a little bit more fall to the other seasons. Fall can't only be contained by autumn, you know? So anyways, those are the books that I either have read myself and highly recommend, or am looking forward to read and have heard great recommendations and reviews of the other ones. Please let me know what your spring reads are going to be, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye!